Hello, hello, hello. A warm welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time joining us. My name is Chastity, and I'm an intuitive life coach and Reiki master. It's been a little bit. It's been a while since I posted a video on YouTube, aside from a short here or there. But in my personal and professional life, I tend to have times when I go into what I call a hermit mode. And I really take the opportunity to assess if the goal that I set to accomplish is actually being accomplished, right? Am I actually doing what I said or what I set out to do? And while I really do enjoy creating videos on YouTube, I love scripting and recording and editing, and it gives me an opportunity to be very creative. And I also get a really good response on quite a number of the videos. I feel like something could be done better. And I'm thinking that when it comes to videos, it's so easy to become distracted by the visuals. It's so easy to pay attention to the context instead of the content. But when it comes to the energy or coaching subjects and topics that I cover, it really is about the content. It's about being able to listen to new perspectives that may potentially help you make a slight shift to help you get closer to where it is that you want to be. Or maybe hearing me say something that absolutely does not resonate with how you feel and helps you reaffirm and confirm how it is that you think and see things. So either way, it's a win-win, but it requires paying attention to content and really listening instead of paying attention to the more visual aspects of videos. So, in true form to who I am, I like to change things up. You really don't know what I'm going to come up with. While I can be and am very predictable as a person when it comes to my ability to create different ways of doing things or seeing things, I do like to break away from the norm because it keeps the energy flowing and things kind of feeling fresh and new. So, we're going to give this a try for a while. You guys will determine the topics that I cover on these podcasts. The only exception to this will be today. If you're anything like me, you question your sources. You question why the sources that you listen to. Why are they an authority figure in that topic? I question a lot. And so I want to give you some feedback on my personal and professional background. I want to let you in on who I am a little bit so that you do understand what brought me to becoming an intuitive life coach. Again, I'm the kind of person that just doesn't take what somebody else has to say and runs with it. I really do question everything. It is really what allows me to keep an open mind relative to everything and anything in my life. I live my life under the assumption that there's always something for me to learn. And I like learning from other people. So, with that being said, I was born in 1976 in Massachusetts to two Cuban immigrants. And you'll know why that is pertinent in a few minutes. I come from a very strong lineage of spiritually gifted individuals on both my maternal and my paternal side. Especially my mom's side. My mom was a very remarkable, amazing medium psychic. She didn't do it for a living, but anyone who had the honor and the pleasure and privilege to meet her knew that she was very much on point, and at times it was scary to be around her because if she turned to you, there was a specific look in her eyes and you knew she was going to share some information and downloads. And interestingly enough, I recently realized that I have become that person. I am that person. So I noticed the energy shift around some of my family members and sometimes closer friends who, I don't know, I don't go around looking at or tapping into anybody's energies. I promise. I love you guys and I have the best of intentions for everyone. However, I do focus on myself, on what I've got going on my goals. It is unethical and I do not like to look into people's lives. If you ask for a sign, if you ask for the universe, for God, for whomever or whatever you believe in, for something to help you make sure that you're on the right path, I may just be that messenger that's going to deliver it to you, that's going to give you that message that you've been waiting for. It's not always easy for me to deliver these messages because sometimes it's very often, it's with strangers. So if I see you at the grocery store, I may just stop you and say something to you. But I love you guys again, but I promise you I'm not looking into anybody's lives. I'm not that kind of person. So anyway, when I was about 2 or 3 years old, I remember having encounters, I guess, or I don't even know if that's the best word, but maybe experiences with archangels and angels and spirit guides. I would do interdimensional traveling. I remember I could describe what my grandmother's house in Cuba looked like, and I never stepped foot there. So I had a lot of what most people would call supernatural experiences, but to me they were very normal. I really didn't think much of it until, of course, I started going to school. And then when I was in elementary school, it became blatantly obvious that, so this is not what everybody experienced. And I decided that I wanted to be normal, whatever that meant, because that really doesn't even exist. So I closed myself off to this beautiful spiritual world and connection that I had. And the more I did, the more I became afraid of everything and anything. Anything that happened to me outside the norm scared me to death. I was a huge scaredy cat for many, many years. It wasn't until I actually left for college that things started to change. So having been raised in a Cuban American household, there were always a lot of people in my house. Silence, complete silence, was a little on the rare side and just valuable, right? Honestly, anyone who has or who is part of a Hispanic household understands that to get a little bit of moment or time by yourself sometimes is a task. So when I left for college, I had the opportunity to do something that I had been guided to do for a while. I would go into my room, shut the lights off, light a candle, and I would just sit on my bed. Now, I had no idea that what I was doing was meditating. I didn't know what the concept of meditation was. I had never heard of it. But all I knew is that when I did when I practiced that, when I was sitting in silence, I felt I kept going back home. Not to a physical space, but rather to an energy of just feeling of complete inner peace. So throughout my college years, I did have a couple of experiences, none which I shared with anyone, of course. And if anyone who I knew in college listens to this, they're going to be in shock because, again, I never shared this with anyone. This was something I held very close to me. But fast forward to 2000, and in the year 2000, and my father had just gone, and we lived in different cities, but my father had just gone to the doctor for his annual checkup. And he had received a clean bill of health. You're really healthy, you look great, no issues. But I had a visitation by my spirit guides. And they gave me very detailed description of what would unfold relative to my father. 3 months later, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. 4 months later, my father passed away. Now, I'm just giving the highlights. A lot of stuff happened in between all of that. But once my father passed away, those fears that had held me back for so many years were gone. Because once he died, I knew somebody on the other side who I knew that I could trust. So now it put me in a position where in the year 2001, at this point, I was ready to reconnect with the spiritual world. I was ready and actually demanding that he show me what happens when you cross over, that he share with me the experience, that he provide details, because if anything, I felt he owed me that, right? And so he did. And one of the first things he showed me was a book. And when he showed me this book, he flipped it kind of like an animation, so the pages kept turning really quickly, and I could see the story of my life in great, great detail. But it's like all past, present, future lives, everything happens concurrently. And I was just in awe, seeing it right in front of me. Like the fated moments, right? Because the destiny is not written, but the fated moments. And after that experience, I started doing some research, and I learned about Akashic Records and that kind of stuff. I knew nothing of that. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know what the word was. But everything that has happened to me and in my spiritual development, it happened to me first, or it happens to me first, and then I look it up and I do the research. I do my very best not to read on anything unless it specifically happens to me. I don't want outside information to influence my experience, and I want what I've learned and the connections that I'm making with the spiritual world to be very authentic and very true to my own personal truth and into my experience and in my life. So I graduated from my with my undergraduate degree in psychology. I later went on to earning a master's degree in organizational leadership. Entered the corporate world, and while I was working, also decided to continue working on my craft, learned about Reiki, went through the different levels, and became a Reiki master. I will say I don't really believe in that title so much. I say it because people understand the amount of training, but I really believe it takes an entire life to really master anything. But for all intents and purposes, I trained up to that level. And then a few years after that, I decided that I wanted to, again, go back to school. Because in the state of Florida, in order to practice Reiki, you either have to be an ordained minister or be a licensed massage therapist. I'm actually both. I did go back to school. I passed the board exam, became a licensed massage therapist. And a few years after that, I had the opportunity to leave the corporate world, and I opened my own office where I offered Reiki sessions. Now, when I offered a Reiki session, what happened very often was at the end of the sessions, I would share feedback with my clients, and they started asking me for guidance and coaching on life topics. I do not like to give personal advice. I think people are an expert in their own lives. I think while it may be easy to chime in and give my 2 cents and my opinion on things, at the end of the day, really you're the only person that understands and can see all of your life from a holistic perspective. And so while I did try to help my clients to the best of my abilities from a coaching aspect, I decided that it was in their best interest and in my own to really receive formal training. And that's exactly what I did. Went back to school and received coaching and a post-bac certificate in health and wellness coaching. Now, I feel like I am completely blessed. The way that God divinely orchestrated every experience, both personal and professional, in my life to lead me to where I am today. I feel like my high-level intuition, my clairsentience, claircognizance, clairvoyance perfectly marry my coaching skills in a way that I can truly help others help themselves. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to know that you have within you everything you need to live a life by design. My goal is to help you really deepen your spiritual connection while you stay grounded, while you develop high level of awareness so that you can pivot and change your mindset when you need to so that you can live a purpose-driven, meaningful, and absolutely beautiful life. I feel very, very passionate about seeing you become the best version of yourselves. And so, whatever topics that you want to discuss, let me know. You can leave comments. You can reach out to me via my website and the contact page. But really, and most especially if you are not in the position right now where you can afford private coaching, this is the best way to really reach out to me and ask me if you have any specific areas that you really want help on. And so I will do everything that I can to help you, help yourself. And in the meantime, let's have fun in this learning process. It is about the journey. It is not about the destination. It is about the amazing people that you meet along the way, the wonderful experiences you get to have, and the life that you get to create. Thank you for joining me on this podcast today. Thank you for your ongoing support, for your love, for reaching out to me, for booking your sessions. I am truly humbled by your love and support, and I am blessed to be meeting so many beautiful souls. Until next time, may love and light always guide you. Take care.